Hello, podcast listeners. Welcome to episode 12 of the Inverted Aim podcast. As always, I am your host, Steven1463, and I am here with the one, the only, the man I just promoted to my official co-host, YouTuber formerly known as C-Tactics.
Mary Ann Louise was walking through a desert. She saw a forest in the desert. She was confused. She walked into the forest, and what she saw, she almost couldn't comprehend. A 25-foot tall weed monster came out and blowed a puff of smoke in her face. She died from marijuana overdose that night.
Very interesting. And today, we have some very interesting topics for you guys. Sony is trying to trademark the term Let's Play for the use of streaming on their video platforms. And
Awful. Sorry.
yes, truly. And I don't see why they would try to do that, considering Let's Play is such a big... it's such a widely used term. I mean, everybody on YouTube is doing Let's Plays now, it seems like. Even like Vivo channels are starting to do Let's Plays.
And
Okay.
it's such a widely used term too. It's let's go play some soccer. Let's play basketball. It's one of those things. It's kind of like Xerox. Everyone used like they're going to use a Xerox machine, even though like Xerox lost the patent on that word because it's such a widely used term. And this should not be shrugged off. Like we've seen
Absolutely.
what companies will do when they have power like this. This is way too much power for a company to have. And Sony is still trying to trademark it. And they, sadly, will most likely succeed in doing so. And it will do nothing but harm YouTube and Twitch and live entertainment.
Yes.
I mean, think about it. Live, ESPN2 is streaming live Dota tournaments. If Sony got a hold of that Let's Play trademark, Let's Play is such a widely used term that they could feasibly take down anything that's... They could take down basketball because they're playing something. You know?
Yeah, it's true.
But the thing is, they're trademarking it in live streaming platforms and video on demand services. This is obviously they're trying to make a quick buck, monetize not every
videos
video,
that
but a lot.
The highest percentage of videos on YouTube are gaming walkthroughs or gaming Let's Plays.
Now think about this,
And-
Steven, and the audience. Think about this one. This is about to hit you right on the head. They could literally take down videos of their competitors and keep certain ones up. So maybe they don't like Microsoft. Maybe they want to, give them a bad image. So they take down all the videos that say that have Microsoft and Xbox One in a good light. And they keep up all the ones that have Xbox One in a bad light, or the Wii U, or maybe even the PS3. Maybe don't talk about the PS3. We want to sell PS4s. What then?
And they're going to go and file a claim, get those videos taken down, maybe even get the whole channel removed.
And here is the thing. This is not something that's going to happen instantly.
It's something that's going to gradually
Sony
come
has
up.
the goodwill of gamers.
Yes.
But if they do it slowly, no one will turn their head until they notice that Sony has literally taken over video game platforming. What am I even saying? Video game platforms. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous for them to even try to do this. It's not getting enough talk. It needs to get more.
It needs more exposure as well. They could even use their power if they get to that point to take down huge multi-million net worth channels such as PewDiePie and Markiplier.
Maybe it could be something as trivial as them playing an Xbox game.
Yep.
Or they can take them down because they have the Let's Play trademark. This is not good.
They could take down Achievement Hunter because they've made lots of money just with They coined the term Let's Play.
They did. They have a channel named Let's Play, which is insane.
Indeed.
Because I don't like Achievement Hunter or Rooster Teeth. I think they've kind of went off the rails a little bit, but they're doing what they're doing, and they have the right to do what they do, and they should do it. And Sony filing a trademark against a widely used term that's used by thousands of people on a daily, not thousands, billions of people on a daily basis, even at that. All over the world, people are saying the term Let's Play, using it in gaming videos. This should not be happening. This should not be a word that should be trademarked. This should be a common use term at this point.
Yes. Very much so. I agree 100%. Well, speaking of YouTubers posting lots of content of gameplay on a daily basis, The Division had a huge day today, and they let YouTubers release hundreds of hours of gameplay. After watching gameplay, what are your thoughts on The Division? And is this another sacrificial lamb like Watch Dogs, or is it AC Unity? Or is it going to be a widely successful game?
Well, I think it's quite obvious the internet will immediately deem this as the next Watch Dogs when it releases. Like, there's no way that this game is going to come out and it's going to, like, they're just going to be like, the graphics, they aren't as good. We've come to expect this from Ubisoft. I think that's a thing that shouldn't be even suggested when, comparing a Ubisoft game's release to when it was announced 2-3 years ago, as this game was.
It's got the Watch Dogs hype behind it, and, like, the AC Unity hype. Because they hyped those games up to be the huge release of the year, and then just flopped on release because
Watch Dogs sold 6 million copies.
Yeah, but it got tons of hate. That's what I'm saying here.
From the hardcore internet community.
Yes.
It went unnoticed because it was not a stellar game. That's just that. It was a base game. That has nothing to really do with people hating it. It's just really the marketing and people buying it and saying, oh, this is a great game. But no one's going to talk about that game a year or even 3 months into the future because the game itself is a hollow base.
Yes. But sadly, the truth of it is those, like, internet communities that are so, like, hateful towards it are the main sources of where a lot of people get their reviews and things for the game itself. And if people keep going to, like, R games on Reddit, then they're going to get a whole bunch of horrible reviews on some really good games, and they're going to follow those reviews.
Like, today there was an example I saw on our Xbox One. Gone Home released on PS4 and Xbox One. And all of the journalists have really hyped this game up. And someone put this really great post up basically saying, where was the hype? Why was the hype behind this game? The game doesn't really do anything new. It's got a different way of telling a story, but that's the only merit to it at that. And even then, the gameplay is boring, and it doesn't make sense as to why this was the game that was amazing. The same thing happened with The Last of Us, you remember correctly.
Yes.
It was called the Citizen Kane of Gaming when it had the most mediocre, sluggish controls of all time that dipped regularly below 30 FPS. Massive drops.
That's mainly just because of the storyline, though. It's not because of the terrible control scheme and all that.
Even then, it's a game that you should consider it.
Yeah. It's very true.
Yeah, and I think this game is Ubisoft's answer to Destiny. Because if you watch the gameplay, it's really, really, really solid. It's really nice, and you can see a lot of things that Ubisoft is kind of like, okay, Destiny, you're doing that? Well, yeah, we're doing that, and we're doing it better. Like, I really like that. And it even looks really beautiful on consoles at that. Obviously, it's not going to look as good as, those debut trailers. But even though they said they were, maybe it was a year or two ago, they said that they were overhauling the game. They were completely remaking it, which is why there was that big delay, and why the game is coming out this year, instead of 2013 when it was originally going to release. Or maybe it was
Yes.
2014.
2013.
But the game, even after the rework, the massive rebuild of the game and the engine, it still looks beautiful. Like, I was really surprised at that. But the biggest question is, will it be interesting enough to keep people playing months after?
That is the big question for most games before they release, though. It's just a matter of we'll have to see when it comes out.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. But speaking of games releasing this year in 2016, will Cyberpunk 2077 be one of those games?
Well, I don't know if you know.
I haven't really been following Cyberpunk, so this is going to be on you, Mr. C Tactics.
All right, so I'm going to kind of explain the game as to what it is right now, as to what the common knowledge of it is, and what they've kind of said about it. So basically, the game is based off a board game called Cyberpunk 2077. I may be wrong in saying that. I think it's maybe Cyberpunk 2030 or 2020. Cyberpunk 2077 is the story of the board game, adapted into an RPG made by CD Projekt Red, the guys that made The Witcher 3, The Witcher 2, The Witcher, those great titles. Witcher 3 Game of the Year, obviously. Basically, the whole thing is that it's a really awesome concept. It's a living, breathing RPG world as we've come to know, but the cool concept and the cool things they're integrating to it that really have never been integrated before. So basically, your character is almost like kind of Jensen from Deus Ex. He gets, augments to his body or her body, whichever one you choose. And so one of the things they kind of teased was that there are different areas of this world. I think it's Los Angeles. So there's different areas of Los Angeles where people speak different languages. There are no subtitles in the game. So when you go in, if you have subtitles on, when you go in, it won't give you. So if there's like someone speaking,
it won't give you your native language.
Yeah, you will have to get an augment to listen to what that language says. So instead of just, oh, the subtitles are there present, so I'll just read that. No, you have to level up or buy an augment for your character that gives you a cybernetic upgrade to translate what that person is saying and then communicate with them.
Okay, I got you. That's
really
cool.
Nice thing. And CD Projekt Red has teased that they're looking for a 2016 release. They've stated that they're shooting for that, and they haven't promised it, but they're shooting for it. And the big question.
I know what this is now. Minecraft podcast talked about this a while back, but continue with what you were saying.
But the real question is, it would be amazing to see in 2016, but the real question is, does the game, especially the way that has been described to the general public currently, does it need to be released in 2016? And you can go both arguments of this. People will say, yes, it does. After The Witcher 3, CD Projekt Red really needs to build on that hype of, The Witcher 3, Game of the Year. And certainly Cyberpunk 2077, from the description, will probably be Game of the Year. So they could easily push it out 2016. I'm not saying pushing it out as in get it out the door or rush it. You can still release it 2016 by not rushing it. You just have to cut some things and things like that. They could easily do this. They could easily release it in 2016 and release those extra things that they had to cut as an expansion.
Yes.
That could be a thing they could do. Or they could wait till 2017 when it's supposed release, and release a full, complete game, and then start work on Cyberpunk 2077 2, or The Witcher 4, which is believed to be the next game after Cyberpunk. But does it... I guess the question for podcast listeners is, does it need to be out in 2016? You decide.
Okay, well, with that, are we ready to move on?
Yeah. I'm in the zone right now.
Big news from Zuckerberg, I guess.
Palmer
the,
Lucky, not Palmer Lucky, not
no,
Zuckerberg.
no, Zuckerberg bought it. Zuckerberg bought Oculus, so it's Zuckerberg.
So I guess he bought Palmer now. So
Yeah,
Palmer Lucky's name is Zuckerberg.
it's now it's Zuckerberg. The Oculus Rift is now confirmed to be priced at $600 American, 1,000 Canadian, probably like 2,000 UK. That's
two, 2 million UK. What do they even do in the UK?
now. With this, have your options on VR changed from this announcement? And will you be willing to drop that amount of money on first generation hardware? Now I would have to wait a little while, just like it is with any console.
Yeah.
To get
obviously.
like the first impressions of the Oculus, the official release of the Oculus. From what I've seen so far, it's pretty good. They got that little bug where I don't even know if it's an issue anymore. If someone like touches you or something when you got the Oculus on, you just like all of your body goes limp. Which that was a real issue with like alpha testing and beta testing.
The people like they put goats in like the goats that like basically go limp when you scare them.
Yeah.
Like it's just people just go bah and they fall over.
Face on the table. Well, if bugs like that are worked out, and if they have
I like how that's a bug. Like
if they have
human
like,
patch 1.2.
If they have good enough like games and releases for it, maybe some exclusives, I would totally be willing to throw $600 on it. But if it's kind of like how the Xbox One was and the PS4 when it first released, where they didn't have any like major exclusives that worked.
What are you talking about, dog? Call of Duty Ghosts.
They had
broken Battlefield 4.
They had Master Chief Collection.
That was the year after.
Xbox One.
No, that was 2014. That was the year after it came out.
Was it?
Yeah, it came out a year after.
Okay. I stand corrected. Now, if they throw out some good exclusives, not broken, I would totally throw down $600 on it. But if not, I'm going to wait until the price lowers by maybe like $200, $300.
Well, very good points you make, but
it may be completely overpriced. We don't know because we don't know the official releases 100% yet. They haven't released what it's going to be yet.
Yeah.
A full list.
We do have to keep in mind though that this is the first wave of VR. There has been VR out for the Samsung phone, which is a really expensive device, which is like $600. So.
Yes.
But the thing that's kind of funny about this is you see on Twitter tweeting about this on their $600 iPhones, saying this is a ripoff. This is too much. Listen, the screen that's in the Oculus Rift is a 4K screen. All right?
Yes.
4K TVs cost $1,000.
Okay,
right
that's a very valid point.
even.
Very valid point.
This is $600 for a 4K screen where you can simulate in the device a giant 4K screen. Think about that.
Yeah, that's true.
$600 for an emulated 4K screen. That's virtual reality. Virtual reality, the thing that every kid has dreamt about since the 80s.
Yeah.
And this is the first wave though. This is just to help VR get off its feet. It's not supposed to be this next, the second coming of Christ immediately. This will be a 10-year thing. It will. This is a 10-year process. Okay.
Yes.
We're not going to see cheap Oculus Rifts, PlayStation VRs or Valve VR stuff. We're not going to see any of that for a while, for a long while. We're not going to see it done good for a long while, because to play VR games, you need a really powerful PC that's top 1%. Like, you have to be in the top 1% of PC owners to be able to even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows how much hardware is still, we're just
Tip
we're
of
just
the iceberg.
that much, we're just almost there to where everyone has it. The thing that bugs me about this is that people are calling this a failure. Now, all those things I just said and all the facts that are laid out right now, this is not a failure. If they're selling, Zuckerberg tweeted this out. He said they're selling Oculus Rift at an incredible loss. Each unit they're selling at a loss. That goes to show that these things are not cheap to manufacture at all. These things are high quality products, and even then the Oculus Rift is cheap compared to high quality VR. So when you're buying the Oculus Rift, think about this. This isn't even high quality. You're getting low quality, cheap stuff in the VR world that's incredibly new and wonderful and exciting. I just don't understand how people are labeling this a failure when that's the point of the first generation. That has always been the point. The Xbox One, not the Xbox One, the first Xbox, 2001 Xbox, widely accepted as kind of a failure of hardware in a lot of ways. It did a lot of new things, but it was severely underpowered by its second year. Same with PlayStation 2 in a lot of ways. The Xbox didn't really have a gimmick. The PS2 had a gimmick, which is why it lasted so long. It had a DVD player, which back then that wasn't a big thing. So you have to take these things into account and really analyze things from a different point of view, as you normally would with maybe a new console release.
Yep.
The same thing with the PS3. The PS3 had a Blu-ray player. The Xbox 360 didn't. The only reason that these two consoles stayed on course and on path and were competing throughout their whole life cycle was the PS3 had terrible internet infrastructure, but it had a Blu-ray player, an amazing cheap Blu-ray player. $600, $800 when that PS3 came out. That was cheap for Blu-ray back then.
Indeed.
The Xbox 360 had a great internet infrastructure. It had Xbox Live Arcade. It had really cheap alternatives to boxed copies of games. You have to take all that into account. You can't just call things a failure outright because you see something labeled as so and so. You have to really, one, you have to experience it, and you have to give it time. You have to give this stuff incredible amounts of time. We didn't see the potential of the Xbox One and the PS4 right off the bat. We saw them as a lot of people went into this new generation. People said consoles were dead. Think about that. People said consoles were dead. Mobile gaming was going to be the next step in gaming.
It was
and
not.
Now look at us now. It's ridiculous. PS4, 30 plus million. Xbox One, probably about the 20 million plus mark.
Yep.
Like, it is. You just have to give things time to really see the true value of things and see how things really fare in the wild. That's all I'm saying.
Speaking of things that have been a failure in the past, Homefront: The Revolution released the This Is Philadelphia trailer this past week. It is also rumored to be releasing May 17th, which is obviously unconfirmed.
But it's a Tuesday.
If you sign up on their website, you could gain access to an Xbox One closed beta, but with Homefront looming over us, what do you think will be the overall reaction to the game, and will it be a smash hit or will it flop like Homefront did in 2009?
Now, I put flop in air quotes when writing this because Homefront sold millions of copies. The original one, it was a successful game. It wasn't a flop by that standard. It just had a terrible story and a really interesting multiplayer that didn't really take off because, I mean, it it
It
just
was a
the story
Titanfall.
wasn't there.
It was a
Yeah, it was a
Titanfall with an
Titanfall.
interesting story. Oh, interesting story. Yeah. That's what I'm
Interesting
looking for.
story, just terrible story.
Yeah. Okay.
But here's the thing, and people have been saying May 17th because someone pre-ordered the game, and they got a card back. You know, on those little cards you get that you go take back to the store, and you're like, "This is my card to prove that I pre-ordered this."
Yes.
On that card, it said May 17th, 2016. This is going head-to-head, basically, with the big guys, the Uncharteds of the world. And I really hope this game is stellar. I really do. But how good does it have to be to compete with, the Uncharteds of the world?
That's a very good point there.
This game has been in development hell for 2 years, at least. And I'm a really big fan of Homefront. I think this is the weird thing. I think everyone knows what Homefront is, and I think everyone likes Homefront. I think everyone wants Homefront to succeed. It's just the game has been in development hell. It was originally a THQ title. Remember THQ? Exactly.
Yep.
Been in development since 2010, I believe. I mean, I hope this game is good, and they've been taking the necessary steps in doing this. This game is not set in the Homefront 2009 universe. This game is set in a totally different Homefront universe. This is not the same game that we're playing. And with that being said, I would love to see them focus on the story, since it is a single-player experience. It's something that modern FPS don't really do, besides, games like, and I've been bringing a lot up this show, but Deus Ex. Deus Ex is really the only single-player shooter that has, maybe in Wolfenstein, that have really focused on story and gameplay, and that use them in tandem. And from what I've seen of the Revolution, is that they have been focusing on gameplay, but is the story there? Will we see the interesting story of how North Korea took over the United States, which is a ridiculous premise in itself?
Indeed.
So you got to have a good reason,
Yeah.
as to why.
But what may be lacking, though, the internet will catch in on this. It may be another Watch Dogs. It seemed like they may have had something to hide, because a lot of the trailer for This Is Philadelphia was CG. A very large majority of the trailer was...
You bring up a good point.
If not all of it was CG. And if the graphics are bad and it's not what the trailers promised and what it was hyped up to be for the past probably 4 years since I've seen it pop up.
I don't think this
Maybe
game was
6.
hyped up at all. This game has...
I've seen it at E3 and other...
I mean, obviously, you'll
Yes.
see things, there, but you don't really see, developers going and doing interviews about this game saying this is, the next Last of Us or whatever. Or you don't get those graphical presentations. I mean, when you look at the game, it's really just Crysis and Homefront. It's just you're playing Crysis 3 next gen.
Okay, that's a very valid point. I think that's all we... Are you ready to move on? Sea Tactics?
Yeah, I think we've said enough on that.
Ubisoft had an amazing 2015. Rainbow Six Siege was a huge success, and it was an innovative multiplayer game. Assassin's Creed Syndicate is one of the best Assassin's Creed games. They have continued their heavy support for Rocksmith 2014. With only rumors to go by, Ubisoft seems to be really listening to their sales numbers and has possibly made Assassin's Creed a biannual series. My fault, I am sorry. Stutter. Along with Watch Dogs. Not to mention there is the sequel to
This goes on
South Park,
forever.
The Stick of Truth, coming this year. In 2 years, where do you see Ubisoft? Well, I see Ubisoft in 2 years being the huge success that they are today, maybe even more successful. It depends on if the next Assassin's Creed, whatever it is the smash hit that every other Assassin's Creed game has been so
It is
far.
rumored. It has, from the guy who broke this rumor, that said that it will be a biannual series, not an annual series anymore. He also said that they're rebooting the series. They're rebooting Assassin's Creed. They're focusing on one character, one main character, and it's going to be in the style of The Witcher 3.
That's a very good premise right there.
That is you.
Absolutely.
Assassin's Creed Geralt's Revenge. I don't know.
Yeah. And now the game that shares the Assassin's Creed universe, Watch Dogs. If Watch Dogs 2 comes out with a better reception than the original Watch Dogs did, then like we saw this with the original Assassin's Creed as well. Assassin's Creed 2 came out, and people went back to Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed was not as well loved, let's say, on release as Assassin's Creed 2 was. Now, we could see that with Watch Dogs and Watch Dogs 2. People will see Watch Dogs as a classic, and Watch Dogs 2 will be one of the best-selling games of 2016, 2017, whenever it comes out.
Mm-hmm. I think we also have to watch out for Ubisoft's little projects. Rocksmith 2014, as I said, is getting supported, but the devs of that game are putting out questionnaires like, hey, did you use this feature in Rocksmith? Which obviously means they're working on the next Rocksmith. So that's Rocksmith 2016 or 2017, where they're calling it, coming out this year or next year. That Ubisoft supports these games, and Child of Light 2, we've already known this is in development and coming out. And South Park: The Fractured But Whole. I love that title.
That's great.
I mean, it was a super underdog smash hit. The first one was. It's a great RPG, which Ubisoft seems to be focusing on more now. Is the classic RPGs. Child of Light, as I said, is a great RPG, and Stick of Truth is a great RPG. I think that's where we should also be kind of looking out for Ubisoft, because in these next 2 years, Ubisoft will probably do a lot more indie games as well. Child of Light being an indie game.
Yep. And that's something to look forward to, absolutely.
And I want to comment on Rainbow Six Siege.
Okay, go ahead.
Because no one's playing that game, but it's probably the best FPS to come out since maybe Wolfenstein. It's innovative, like I said. It's got a fun multiplayer experience, and I think this is an example of don't make single player or multiplayer only games. It's another. It Titanfalled itself because it was multiplayer only.
Pretty much.
It should have had a single player story. I mean, you saw the ads for that, and the ads looked like it was going to have a single player, but then they announced, maybe a year before the game came out, that
no
single player. Sorry. All those trailers with Idris Elba didn't mean anything. Great. Ubisoft is obviously listening to everything and looking at what's happening to the gaming world and see how it's changing, and seeing that annual series do not work as good as they once did. So they're obviously taking Assassin's Creed, they're retooling it. Hopefully this rumor is true, because it needs to happen, and possibly making Assassin's Creed fun again.
Yep.
And the same goes with Watch Dogs. They're hopefully taking Watch Dogs and they're making the sequel that that everyone wants. That the continuation of whoever the main character story is. I don't know if people want to see that, and if they don't, hopefully they're listening and not putting him in the game. I mean, in 2 years, we should be seeing Ubisoft in hopefully a great place.
Well, do you see a Rocksmith 2016 that is as huge and innovative as 2014 being one of the best ways to learn guitar out there? Like,
do you work for Ubisoft? Because it sounds like you do.
No, I do not. I'm just a secret agent.
Secret agent, man. Which is also DLC for Rocksmith.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
Well, looks like someone here is a Ubisoft employee.
Sorry. Oops.
Uh-oh.
Rocksmith, the original one sold incredibly terrible, but for a game, it sold maybe 500K, 800K copies. The second one sold 1 million copies in its first week. That's amazing. 1 million copies is amazing. I don't care what anyone says. People always say 1 million copies is not enough. It's more than enough to deem it a success.
Yes.
And it's obviously sold millions more since then, probably. It's probably at what, 2-3 million at this point. Like, I wouldn't be surprised.
I'd say probably in like the 4 to 6 range.
Something like that. It's not too big.
Not too huge, but still successful.
Yeah, it's just small enough to get in there.
Yep.
It won't hurt. You don't really need lube. It'll fit in there snugly. The next Rocksmith, I think, will have to do what Rocksmith 2014 did to improve over Rocksmith, the original Rocksmith. People are yelling in the background. You can probably hear that.
I
Sorry.
can. My dog just barked in the background as well.
Well,
It's
yeah.
okay. This is going downhill.
Yeah, this is going downhill. People are interrupting from other rooms.
Okay. Well,
basically, Rocksmith, the next one, it has to do amazing things, and I think this next Rocksmith is really gonna do kind of a make or break for the series. I don't think there's gonna be a fourth Rocksmith, for better or for worse. It probably wouldn't make sense to do another Rocksmith in the next 10 years after this next one comes out, if they do it right. If they do the next Rocksmith right, that means they have a perfect song list. They get the big names. They get the Guns N' Roses, the Metallicas, the Beatles. They get all those guys. They're never going to get those 3 bands. Just saying. But get bands like that and have the perfect on disc set list and have it basically even the faster way to learn guitar, like the sub box for the game is basically
the
you thought
Rocksmith
way. 2014 was fun way to learn guitar. Well, guess what?
Rocksmith 2016 is even funner.
You're
gonna
pick up a
explode,
guitar and you're gonna just know how to play it instinctively. We're that good. Like,
yeah,
it's got to improve on everything. It's got to make the interface better, more songs, DLC support by bigger bands, and I'm not saying they don't have big band support. Megadeth is the next pack that's coming out this week for Rocksmith. That's huge.
Indeed.
I mean, they even have Rolling Stones in that game. Just saying.
Yeah.
Look out for Ubisoft. I'm just saying. Look out for them the next 2 years. They're going to be doing great things.
Innovative. Okay, well, I guess that'll do it for today's episode of the Inverted Aim podcast. C Tactics, where can they find you?
They can find me on this channel.
Where can they find you?
I just want to say before that, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job, Steven, as the host of the Inverted Aim podcast.
Thank you very much, old host of the Inverted Aim podcast.
Former mild-mannered sex machine I am.
Indeed.
Well, no, you don't need to know about that.
You can find C-Tactics, twitter.com/CTacticsFTW.
Who?
And you can find me on twitter.com/LogicalParadox1. I'm sorry I couldn't rebrand over there. Don't sue me. Well, anyway, expect to see C-Tactics around more and more, and go show him some support
He'll come back
as
to
the
YouTube
new
one day.
co-host of the Inverted Aim podcast. Thank you very much for listening to this episode, and as always, goodbye.